On April 7th, 2013, the Stone family prepares to travel home together from Jamaica, but due to overbooking, Benjamin Stone, his son Cal, who is suffering from leukemia, and his sister Michaela are separated from the rest of the family. Grace, Olive, and their parents board the original flight, while Ben, Cal, and Michaela take Montego Air Flight 828. Michaela is still struggling with survivor's guilt from a car accident that killed her best friend, while Ben is focused on Cal's health. During the flight, intense turbulence suddenly hits. The plane stabilizes and they land safely, but when they arrive, they are informed that the date is now November 4th, 2018. 5.5 years have gone by since the plane took off. All 191 passengers were declared dead during that time. Upon returning, Ben and Michaela are shocked to discover their mother has died. Michaela learns that her fiancé Jared is now married to her best friend Lourdes. Meanwhile, the passengers begin to experience strange callings, which are mysterious voices and visions. Michaela follows her calling to solve a kidnapping case with Ben's help, realizing her visions are connected to helping others. Other passengers also find their lives changed. One passenger named Saanvi discovers her cancer research has advanced over the years, allowing Cal to receive a new treatment that could save him. Then, the plane explodes in the hangar, destroying any chance of further investigation and deepening the mystery surrounding Flight 828's disappearance. After the explosion, the passengers are detained for questioning, and NSA Director Robert Vance urges them to remain silent about their callings. However, things take a dangerous turn when Kelly Taylor, one of the passengers, publicly shares her experiences with the media and is later found murdered, sending fear through the rest of the group. Meanwhile, a passenger's son named Audio is framed for a robbery. Ben experiences a calling that leads him to uncover the truth and clear Audio's name. At the same time, Ben learns that during his absence, his wife Grace had been involved with another man. Yet they slowly begin to repair their relationship. Michaela, on the other hand, finally returns her engagement ring to Jared, accepting that their lives have changed since Flight 828's return. The police proceed to investigate the other passengers for the murder of Kelly Taylor. But when Michaela and Ben visit her home, they discover that her jewelry has been stolen from her corpse. Her husband Patrick explains that Kelly's calling actually pushed her to reveal the truth to the media. She confessed to living a lavish lifestyle, which drew unwanted attention from the NSA. At the Taylor's Mall, Michaela and Ben uncover Patrick's exploitative dealings with illegal immigrants. Kelly wanted to shut it down for good, but one of the tenants attacked her. Patrick is arrested because of this. Michaela also connects her calling to Kelly's death, seeing it as an unresolved trauma from the death of her best friend Evie, who died in a car crash while Michaela was driving. She visits Evie's parents to reconcile and ends up saving Beverly, Evie's mother, who is having a delirious episode. Soon after, they discover that Christine, the Taylor's housekeeper, was the real killer. Motivated by jealousy, she is arrested for Kelly's murder. On the other hand, Michaela's involvement in the cases makes Jared suspicious of her, though he chooses not to investigate further. Meanwhile, Olive sneaks out to see Kevin, and Cal feels distant, but the siblings eventually reconcile. At the same time, Grace struggles to end her affair, and Ben finds evidence that Danny, her lover, has been around. Meanwhile, Saanvi's research leads them to conclude that the 828 passengers actually nearly died mid-flight, while Kelly's corpse mysteriously ends up in NSA custody. Soon after, Saanvi receives a calling about a stone statue leaving wet footprints. While she is processing brain scans that resemble schizophrenia, she encounters Thomas, a patient who won't stop babbling about Bethany, who is a Flight 828 attendant. Bethany eventually reveals that Thomas is actually a stowaway she smuggled from Jamaica to help him escape persecution for being gay. Meanwhile, during a stakeout, Michaela and Ben reminisce about their past when Michaela suddenly experiences the same calling as Saanvi's, seeing a winged statue that seems to order her to save him. Acting on impulse, she suddenly finds herself in a situation, and Jared ends up taking the blame for her actions. Later, Michaela, Saanvi, and Bethany find Thomas hiding at Bethesda Fountain. He explains that he ran away after learning his boyfriend had suddenly disappeared. This leads Ben to start questioning whether the callings are truly benevolent. Afterwards, Ben clashes with Michaela about how they keep risking their lives for the callings. Determined to defy fate, he decides to take Cal on an unplanned trip to Coney Island after flipping a coin. But on their way home, Cal suddenly leads him on a strange chase, repeatedly saying it's all connected, which reflects Ben's own calling. Their pursuit brings them to Thomas's hiding place, where Cal demonstrates an ability to know about things he shouldn't. This only reignites Ben's determination to uncover the mystery behind Flight 828. Then, flashbacks reveal how Danny, Lourdes, and Jared's lives unfolded during the years when the passengers were gone. Meanwhile, Vance allows Jared to keep his job on the condition that he secretly spies on Michaela. Soon after, Cal begins experiencing fevers and terrifying nightmares, leading Grace to suspect that Saanvi's treatment might have harmed him. However, Saanvi studies his symptoms and discovers that Cal is actually speaking a foreign language similar to that of Marco, a missing passenger. Investigating further, Ben and Saanvi uncover that Marco, along with other foreign nationals, was abducted by the government for secret experimentation, and Cal is somehow channeling his pain through the callings. In response, NSA Director Vance initiates an investigation into the operation. Meanwhile, Michaela confides in Jared, who is shocked by the reality of the callings after witnessing the extreme security measures at the facility where Marco and the others are being held. To uncover the truth behind the missing passengers, Ben infiltrates the unified dynamic systems. Cal has also just been discharged from the hospital, but still feels a strong link to Marco, which pushes Ben to act quickly. He pretends to be an accountant to secure a job at J.P. Williamson, the company managing the mysterious farm. By sabotaging his ID badge, he gains deeper access into the facility and eventually uncovers files connected to Fiona Clark, a neural psychologist and fellow Flight 828 passenger. Her theories on brain synchronization mirror Cal's experiences. Meanwhile, Michaela is dealing with both personal struggles and a new case involving a man named Carlos, whose uncle Enrique has been murdered. Michaela receives a calling to stop the killer before they strike again, but she later discovers that Carlos was the recipient of Evie's heart, creating an emotional connection between them. Back at the investigation, Ben successfully extracts some classified SP files, but is intercepted by Vance. Instead of arresting him, Vance covers for Ben, signaling a shift in their relationship. Ben admits he's becoming suspicious of the callings, while Michaela is growing more confident in them. Vance secretly shields Ben from arrest, hinting at a potential alliance. Soon after, a flashback shows Cal reassuring Ben during the flight, despite his fear of returning to New York, where he was battling cancer. In the present, Cal decides to return to school, which worries Ben since Cal is still connected to the experiments and may be put at risk because of this. However, Michaela insists they should let Cal live a normal life. Meanwhile, the tests at the farm are growing more intense. While Ben continues his undercover work at J.P. Williamson, Vance secretly contacts him by triggering a fire alarm. On the other hand, Michaela encounters Harvey, another passenger, who jumps to his death after confessing that people are dying because of the callings. With this, Michaela decides to investigate his apartment, where she finds the words, "I am the angel of death," written in blood. This leads her to realize Harvey believed he was responsible for exposing the callings. Elsewhere, Fiona Clark plants a bug during her meeting with Lawrence, a military officer, confirming the military's involvement in the experiments. While Michaela, Ben, and Vance work together to uncover the location of the missing passengers and track them to a place called the Red Hook. While all of these are unfolding, Grace and Ben try to reconnect during a date night, while Michaela gives Jared permission to move on without her. However, Cal begins to deteriorate again, showing signs that his connection to the experiments is worsening. At Red Hook, the team arrives and Vance monitors the condition of the missing passengers. Ben pushes for an immediate rescue, but Vance insists they need to assemble a proper team and proceed with caution. Meanwhile, Michaela continues investigating Lawrence, who is suspected of running the experiments. Vance also urges Ben to spend more time with his family in the meantime. To bond, Grace and the kids prepare a surprise celebration for Ben, but he gets pulled away again when Autumn, a passenger, escapes captivity and needs his help. Ben, Michaela, Fiona, and Saanvi hide Autumn and debate the ethics of Fiona's research, which the government has weaponized. Vance tries to assess Autumn's information, but remains skeptical of the callings. Suddenly, Ben, Michaela, and Cal experience intense pain when the captives are electroshocked, with Cal witnessing their suffering firsthand through his visions. Cal is even able to pinpoint their exact location, giving the team a crucial advantage and convincing Vance of the calling's credibility. However, the rescue mission quickly spirals into chaos. Gunfire breaks out, and the lab explodes during the operation. Vance is presumed dead in the aftermath, and Jared is gravely injured, which pushes Michaela to beg the callings to spare his life. Meanwhile, Ben's marriage begins to crumble, as Grace, still overwhelmed by everything, asks him to leave for good. Cal and Olive are left heartbroken by their separation. Jared eventually wakes up in the hospital and asks Michaela to stay with him. Elsewhere, Autumn's true allegiance is revealed as she has secretly been working for Lawrence all along, spying on Ben and his allies. With Vance presumed dead, Ben and Michaela are forced to rely on their own investigation. Autumn secretly feeds Lawrence information, causing further complications. Meanwhile, Grace's distrust of Ben deepens as he continues to hide the truth, leaving Olive torn between her parents, while Cal remains psychically connected to the other passengers. Ben's mission to uncover the truth behind the government's experiments intensifies, bringing him closer to the dangerous unified dynamic systems and Lawrence Belson. Michaela, still reeling from Jared's near-death experience, struggles with her feelings for him and her loyalty to Lords. As the callings grow more intense, the siblings are pushed closer to uncovering Flight 828's true purpose. Michaela lets Zeke, a man who also experiences a mysterious time anomaly, stay at her apartment, while Adrian, another passenger, founds the Church of the Returned, spreading the belief that Flight 828's passengers are divine saviors. Zeke and Cal share a troubling vision of a wolf. Meanwhile, a desperate woman named Alice approaches Saanvi, convinced she can heal her terminally ill husband. When Saanvi refuses, Alice assaults her and holds her at gunpoint. Ben and Michaela track her down, and Michaela disarms Alice. Ben blames Adrian for encouraging dangerous fanaticism through his church. Tensions also rise between Michaela and Lourdes over Jared. Later, Cal draws a picture of a wolf attacking Michaela, and at the docks, she opens a van she believes holds a corpse, only for it to suddenly lunge at her. James Griffin, a criminal van driver believed to be dead, is found alive after being submerged underwater for 82 hours and 8 minutes, mirroring Flight 828. Michaela and Saanvi realize he's also receiving callings and help him decipher a vision about a bombing. Griffin exploits his new ability to secure immunity in exchange for revealing the bomb's location. With their help, the bomb squad successfully disables it in Times Square. Meanwhile, Zeke is arrested for burglary after visiting his mother, and Michaela clashes with Jared, who grows suspicious and jealous. As the situation with Griffin unfolds, Michaela receives another mysterious wolf calling. Elsewhere, Ben reflects on their past family vacations while Cal begins making unsettling drawings. Jared investigates Zeke but grows increasingly confrontational. Meanwhile, James Griffin threatens to reveal the callings to the public, but he mysteriously dies by drowning on dry land exactly 828 minutes after his rescue. Saanvi discovers he shares the same blood marker as Cal and the other passengers, while Olive deciphers clues pointing to June 2nd, 2024 as their possible death date. Days later, Grace reveals she's pregnant but uncertain who the father is. Tensions rise as Michaela rushes home to break up a violent fight between Jared and Zeke, during which a gun unexpectedly goes off. During Jared and Zeke's gunfight, Michaela is accidentally shot. As she bleeds, she receives a powerful calling of Flight 828 crashing, with Cal urging her to save the passengers. She survives surgery and shares her vision with Ben, who tells her about the death date. 2 months later, Ben secretly monitors the passengers, while he and Grace learn she miscarried Danny's baby during his absence, but confirms the current baby is theirs. Michaela, still healing, stays with Ben and returns to work. She and Ben follow a calling involving Anton and Trina Vosick, who are also passengers, stopping them from driving off a cliff. Soon after, Ben is kidnapped by mysterious men and wakes to find Vance alive, revealing he faked his death. Vance reveals he faked his death to secretly track the Major. Soon after, Zeke's trial takes place, and Michaela attends as he pleads guilty to fleeing the scene. Meanwhile, Grace receives a calling to stop the paternity test, leading to the revelation that the baby is actually Ben's. Olive, feeling isolated as the only one without callings, turns to the Church of the Returned. On the other hand, Saanvi begins therapy with a woman who is secretly the Major and unknowingly reveals information about the baby. Then, Ben meets TJ, a fellow passenger whose calling leads him to a buried murder victim. Though TJ is arrested, Michaela uncovers the real killer is a security guard. Ben also reconnects with a college dean and gets invited to work there. Vance and Ben then discover that the Major has accessed Saanvi's DNA research, while Cal and Michaela experience another intense shared calling. As Olive grows more involved with the Church of the Returned, Michaela fights to prove Zeke's innocence. Saanvi grows suspicious of a mole and uncovers that her therapist is leaking information to the Major, revealed to be Major General Catherine Fitz, a psychological warfare expert. At the same time, Grace ignores a gargoyle-related calling. Ben eventually accepts a teaching job at a college, unaware that faculty member Simon White has sinister intentions, as his wife Eureka is connected to the gargoyle calling. Meanwhile, Jared grows distant from Michaela and begins spending time with Tamara, a bartender associated with the Xers, which is an anti-828 extremist group. Michaela and Zeke share a calling that leads them to a bank robbery carried out by Logan, another passenger. They step in, while Ben and TJ follow clues to Logan's brother Frank and a World War II compass believed to have protective power. Logan eventually gives the compass to Michaela. On the other hand, TJ learns about the death date and turns to the Church of the Returned for hope, while Jared and Tamara grow closer. The Major also suspects that Saanvi has discovered her identity. Saanvi continues her secret work on the callings, telling Vance she's experimenting with transferring or removing them. Olive witnesses Xers vandalizing the church and assaulting a member, while Ben receives a calling to save her, and Grace nearly runs her car off the road. The police dismiss both incidents, but Grace is hospitalized, and they learn she's having a girl, leading Ben to believe the calling referred to her. Soon after, Ben and TJ investigate and discover the Xer attacks were distractions, while Olive identifies a suspect pointing to a planned raid. Jared, who is now aligned with the Tamar's brother Billy, leaks the raid details, resulting in Michaela's team finding nothing. Meanwhile, Zeke tries to reconcile with Courtney, who reveals she's his wife. Olive's involvement with the church is also exposed to Ben, who warns Adrian to stay away from her. As Ben and Michaela investigate, they discover that Saanvi has been experimenting on herself to potentially manipulate the callings. Meanwhile, Michaela and Zeke set up a sting operation to catch drug dealer Lucas after Courtney asks for their help with a debt. At the same time, Ben and Saanvi share a calling involving Theo, the illegitimate son of Finn, another passenger. When Saanvi notices Theo's liver failure, Finn is identified as a compatible donor. Olive and TJ also delve into an ancient tarot deck connected to Al-Zaras, a historical mariner tied to the callings. Grace is featured in a magazine as the first 828 passenger to carry a baby, while Saanvi's self-experiments trigger a disturbing calling involving a plane crash and falling ashes, which the team finds hard to decipher. Ben confronts Adrian about his cult, questioning the dangerous beliefs it spreads. Meanwhile, Michaela discovers pills hidden in Zeke's razor, but he denies any involvement. Saanvi also succeeds in removing her genetic mutation through her experiments. Soon after, several 828 passengers gather at a club event, but the champagne is spiked. Isaiah, a cult member, locks everyone inside and starts a fire to test if they are truly miraculous. Ben, Michaela, Zeke, and Jared work together to save as many people, but several die in the blaze. With this, TJ bravely tackles Isaiah, while Adrian is shaken and flees the scene. Days pass, and as Jared and Tamara grow closer, Michaela and her partner Drea secretly bug the bar they go to, uncovering Jared's ties to the Xers. Meanwhile, Ben receives a new calling that leads him and Olive to a medication center where they discover TJ alive in an underground room. Elsewhere, Saanvi kisses her ex-lover Alex, but later forgets it, hinting that her self-experimentation may have side effects on her memory. And as it worsens, Alex steps in to help her. The Internal Affairs begins questioning Michaela about her methods and her involvement in the Isaiah incident. Meanwhile, a shared calling prompts Ben, Grace, Cal, and TJ to build shiprigging, revealing a vision of ancient mariners who went mad after rejecting the callings. At the same time, Jared uncovers information about an XER pilot and wishes to protect Michaela from it, so he ends up arresting her. Because of this, Michaela learns that Jared has been working undercover. Meanwhile, Grace goes into labor, and a calling leads Ben and Olive to Adrian, who helps rescue a surgeon needed to save both Grace and the baby. Ben faces a difficult choice between saving Grace and the child, but fortunately, both survive. At the same time, Michaela leads a police raid on the bar, resulting in the arrest of Simon, Eureka, Billy, and several others, saving Zeke. Meanwhile, Adrian and Cal experience a vision of three shadowy figures, hinting at a new threat. As Zeke's death date nears, Saanvi works tirelessly to find a cure, while Ben and TJ follow a calling that leads them to save a man attempting suicide, who turns out to be Zeke's estranged father. Ben urges Zeke to reconcile, though he remains hesitant. Meanwhile, Michaela arrests a shoplifter but receives a calling to let him go. She later discovers he was stealing cold medicine for meth production and teams up with Jared to track down the lab. Another let him go calling occurs during the bust, but when the cook reaches for a weapon, Michaela ignores it and arrests the men. The three arrested match the shadowy figures seen by Adrian and Cal. Interrogations by Jared and Drea also reveal the men are plotting revenge against Michaela's family. Elsewhere, Ben helps a guilt-ridden passenger connected to Flight 828's inspection, offering him support and closure. Soon after, Michaela and Zeke get married in an intimate ceremony attended by both of Zeke's parents. Meanwhile, the three shadowy figures, Jace, Pete, and Corey, escape from custody and kidnap Cal. At the same time, TJ tells Olive he's leaving for Egypt to continue his studies, marking their farewell. To negotiate Cal's release, Michaela tries to trade meth, but the plan fails when Jace escapes. Zeke receives a calling that leads them to the Catskills, where a confrontation takes place on a frozen lake. Zeke sacrifices himself to save Cal and dies, but a miracle occurs as he revives, seemingly spared from his death date. Meanwhile, Saanvi confronts the Major and accidentally kills her during a struggle. Soon after, a new calling shows Flight 828 exploding midair. The bodies of the three criminals mysteriously vanish, and a Cuban fishing boat discovers the plane's tail in the ocean. Ben and Vance begin investigating the tail fin discovered in Cuba. When Ben touches it, he's violently thrown backward, and the incident is caught on video by a local boy. A Cuban officer tries to replicate the event, but Vance stops him. Ben manages to escape, though Vance is captured by the Cuban intelligence. Meanwhile, Michaela and Zeke's honeymoon in Costa Rica is interrupted by a calling involving a passenger named Angelina Meyer, who is locked up by her missionary parents. Michaela rescues her, and Ben changes direction to pick them up. Saanvi continues her research at the clinic, while Jared receives a report about missing woman Catherine Fitz. Ben and Michaela theorize that Flight 828 exploded and the passengers were resurrected. Simultaneously, Jace, Pete, and Corey mysteriously reappear after the lake thaws. Michaela's suspension is lifted, and she teams up with Drea to investigate the three criminals, tracking their assault on campers and the theft of an RV. Meanwhile, Angelina has a calling about her old school and digs up an old photo. Pete retrieves retrieves it, but is arrested after Corey and Jace abandon him. Grace looks for a safe place for Cal and reconnects with her estranged stepbrother, Tarek. At the same time, Ben and Tim successfully rescue Vance from Cuban custody. Soon after, reporters swarm the Stone house as the discovery of the tailfin becomes public, drawing intense media attention to the family. After being betrayed, Vance refuses to cooperate with the NSA. Ben teams up with Egan on a risky mission to rescue Corey's brother from a museum. Olive uncovers more clues about Flight 828's mystery, while Michaela reconnects with Evie's father and decides to take in her mother. Angelina, on the other hand, visits Pete in jail, feeling a strong calling to help him. Meanwhile, Jared begins interrogating Saanvi, making her increasingly uneasy. Pete and Corey share a new calling, while someone ominously cuts out the Stone family's faces from photographs. At the same time, Vance reacts to something unsettling in a secure room. 2 months later, Vance officially becomes head of the NSA's Flight 828 task force. During this time, surveillance footage shows the mysterious tailfin vanishing shortly after Saanvi killed Fitz. Ben also discovers that Kelly Taylor's body has been inexplicably healed of her gunshot wounds, supporting the theory that the passengers may have died and been resurrected. Meanwhile, Zeke develops empathic abilities, allowing him to sense emotions. Michaela uses information from Pete to expose a drug operation linked to a woman named Coach Hannity. At the same time, Jared and Drea continue their investigation into Fitz's disappearance. Soon after, Jared is kidnapped by Emmett, who feeds him a fabricated cover story about Fitz's disappearance. Vance later reveals that this was done to protect Saanvi. Meanwhile, as Jace's death date nears, he goes on a violent rampage. On the other hand, Michaela uncovers the last trial, which is a myth connected to Jace, Corey, and Pete, suggesting their fates are intertwined. To help Pete, Ben agrees to let the Eureka team, a top-secret government research facility, conduct experiments on him. At the same time, Tarek accidentally reveals the Stone family's location online, putting them at risk. While searching for Jace, Zeke is ambushed and knocked unconscious, leaving Michaela to face the danger on her own. Michaela fights with Jace, who receives a calling from Cal saying, "Last chance." Convinced that killing Cal will save him, Jace kicks Michaela off a cliff and goes after the boy. She is later rescued by Zeke and Jared. Meanwhile, Tarek's house becomes vulnerable when their tires are slashed, and Jace overhears police chatter, revealing their location. He ambushes the family, along with Pete and Angelina, and declares his plan to kill Cal. In the chaos, Jace murders Tarek, and Ben manages to stop Grace from retaliating. Jace eventually collapses as water spews from his mouth, marking his death. However, a dark shadow emerges from his body, killing Pete and Corey again, signaling a new threat. Ben and Michaela soon realize their death date theory is wrong, which explains why Pete and Corey died with Jace. Meanwhile, Angelina is left heartbroken over Pete's death. Later, Olive retrieves Ben's stolen bag and completes the parchment, ultimately revealing that the trio was judged together with a shared fate. Dr. Gupta, founder of Project Eureka, becomes furious over the meth trio's deaths and plans to remove Ben and Saanvi from the project after their work is done. Meanwhile, Michaela, Egan, and others experience a calling of a dark cloud over the East Wing, then see Ben leave. Egan kidnaps him for answers, and Ben admits he's a test subject, warning they're all in the same lifeboat. Michaela and Drea manage to rescue him, and Ben later bails Egan out. At home, Cal and Angelina grieve Tarek and Pete's deaths. Jared grows closer to Sarah Fitz, Catherine's daughter, while Saanvi learns the returned bodies contain sapphire, leading Gupta to keep her and reveal a mysterious container. As it turns out, the container holds petrified wood with the same minerals found in the 828 passengers. Meanwhile, Ben and Michaela follow Rachel Hall's calling, stopping her from killing her abusive ex-husband Jonah, who has remarried her sister. Ben is arrested for triggering an alarm, but he defends his actions, saying it's necessary to protect the lifeboat. At Eureka, Saanvi uses a peacock's DNA to date the wood to 6,000 years ago, linking it to Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat. Elsewhere, Angelina effortlessly soothes baby Eden, daughter of Ben and Grace. Cal also experiments with his empathy powers, and Michaela and Drea observe Jared growing closer to Sarah. Soon, Ben, Michaela, and Egan all experience the same dark cloud callings. Meanwhile, at Eureka, Saanvi's experiment on the petrified wood causes her eyes to bleed, but once she confesses to killing the Major, her symptoms clear. Gupta reveals that the wood briefly vanished during testing. At the same time, Olive and Levi connect Egan's lion vision to an ancient deception legend, while Zeke senses that Jared and Sarah are a good match. Meanwhile, Angelina begins imitating Olive, which increasingly irritates her. In the end, Ben, worried by an Alzuras drawing, fears that the lifeboat is taking on water. Saanvi's experiment triggers an earthquake, leading her to believe that Mount Ararat has come to New York. To prevent further consequences, she disposes of the wood in lava, causing it to vanish. Meanwhile, Ben helps Astrid rescue a child from the anti-828er, Cody Weber, but is arrested after assaulting him. At the same time, Angelina misinterprets a moment with Eden as a sign that the baby is her guardian angel. This delusion drives her to start a fire, prompting Grace to evict her, while Cal senses another calling. Cal secretly hides Angelina in his room, as she believes she is destined to be his heiress. Meanwhile, Ben's arraignment takes a turn for the worse when an anti-828 judge rejects his guilty plea strategy, sets an exorbitant bail, and places him under house arrest. To free him, Grace uses their savings and mortgages their home. At the same time, global governments increase their control over 828 passengers, with one even executed in Singapore. Soon after, several passengers, including Ben and Michaela, experience another fiery callings, and Michaela suspects this is tied to Saanvi's ongoing refusal to confess to the Major's death. When Saanvi returns to Eureka, she discovers that the team is experimenting on the tailfin, leading her to believe a catastrophe is coming. To help her escape, Michaela sacrifices her badge. Meanwhile, Egan lashes out at Ben as he's arrested, and Adrian is taken into custody as well. At the same time, Cal, influenced by Angelina, sneaks off to Eureka to see the tailfin for himself. As the tailfin testing continues, Cal's calling manifests physically and irritates his skin. Ben and Grace plead with Gupta to halt the experiments, but the headquarters authorizes more. Soon, Ben receives a calling instructing him to return the tailfin to the ocean. When Cal touches it, Gupta experiences a vision, and then Cal mysteriously vanishes. Meanwhile, Michaela shares a calling of a blood-soaked Flight 828, warning that someone will die. Adrian and Egan refuse to help, but guided by the ocean's call, Ben plots a plan to return the tailfin to the sea, though his initial attempt to destroy it eventually fails. Moved by Olive's constellation clue, Gupta allows Ben and Vance to steal the tailfin. Meanwhile, Egan and Adrian convince Angelina and other passengers to accuse the Stones of collaborating with the NSA, which sparks a hostage situation involving Vance's son. Zeke, Drea, Jared, and Michaela try their best to defuse it. During the chaos, Jared learns that Michaela hid that Saanvi was behind the Major's death. On the other hand, Saanvi regains her callings by helping return the tailfin. However, Angelina kidnaps Eden, stabs Grace, and vanishes afterward. In Grace's final moments, she sees an adult Cal return and tells her he knows what to do. At the same time, Captain Daly, the pilot of Flight 828, reappears in Eureka's cockpit and vanishes with the plane. 18 months later, the Stones continue to mourn Grace's death and Eden's disappearance. Cal, who is now much older, hides under the name Gabriel to stay hidden. Elsewhere, Michaela rescues Henry Kim, a prisoner from Singapore who holds crucial information about Cal and the Flight 828 black box. When Cal discovers the black box, Michaela's faith in the callings is reignited. Meanwhile, Ben remains in denial, refusing to accept Eden's loss and burning her death certificate. At the same time, it is revealed that Anna Ross, another passenger, has been secretly helping Angelina and Eden all along. Ben spirals further during Grace's funeral, while Saanvi investigates mysterious ULF signals from the 828 black box. Meanwhile, Angelina, who is still hiding with Eden, is briefly stranded before Adrian helps her escape. With Drea and Vance's support, Michaela successfully protects Henry from being sent back. At the same time, Ben's podcast unexpectedly provides new leads about Eden's whereabouts. When Cal visits Henry, he is called a dragon and urged to embrace his destiny. Meanwhile, Saanvi listens to the black box recording and hears overlapping voices, indicating that multiple callings are blending together. Though Ben doesn't hear the thunderous calling that Michaela and Cal share, Eden senses the falling ash. Meanwhile, Jared decides to use the registry to track down Angelina. At Eureka, California experiences multiple callings through the black box, which affect his scar. Michaela sabotages Amuda, Flight 828's co-pilot, to question him, and he reveals that they flew into a ball of light and believes they all died that night. Later, Ben receives a tip from a librarian and discovers Eden's chalk drawings, which symbolically reconnect him with her. With this, Angelina grows angry over Eden's attachment to Ben. At the same time, Egan contacts Ben with Eden's location, while Saanvi investigates ULF signals tied to peacocks. Despite the registry's restrictions, Michaela follows a lightning bird calling to Shinnecock Nation, where she helps Kyle, a young boy, visit his dying mother. Meanwhile, Ben visits Egan in prison, and Egan offers Eden's location in exchange for his release. Although Vance warns against it, Ben insists and goes through with the deal. At the same time, Olive and Cal uncover a connection between the compass inscription and the divine consciousness, which they believe explains the mysterious light the plane encountered. Later, Michaela confirms her calling at Kyle's house, while Ben betrays Vance's trust by going alone to Adrian's hiding place, where he is captured. To find Ben, Vance and his team break into his laptop. Meanwhile, Jared searches Adrian's compound, unaware that Ben is being held there. Soon after, Michaela pressures Egan into giving up information. As Angelina proclaims Judgment Day and prepares to set off a bomb, Cal breaks bravely distracts her, allowing the group to rescue Ben and Eden. They escape just before the explosion, but Angelina survives and is later taken in by Adrian, setting up a new danger. The police proceeds to investigate the explosion, suspicious of its timing. Meanwhile, Zeke struggles emotionally, and Cal's health worsens as Angelina hides with her mother. On the other hand, Michaela's new calling leads to the discovery of Sam, an 828er, found dead. The investigation exposes the police captain as a mole who extorts passengers, revealing that there is a deeper corruption within the registry. After Michaela and Jared bring him down, Jared is reinstated at work. At home, Ben struggles to reconnect with Eden, while Cal secretly contacts Angelina, causing family tensions that ultimately drive him to leave. Later, Anna Ross is murdered, while Saanvi obtains a sapphire shard that allows access to unlimited callings. Cal is diagnosed with cancer and goes on a date with a girl named Violet, unaware that she has connections with Angelina. Meanwhile, Ben uncovers brain-dead passengers tied to the Major's experiments who have glowing brain scans that reveal they still have lingering consciousness. Michaela and Jared connect the murders to Angelina's inner circle and identify Noelle, who is Angelina's mother, as the killer. At the same time, Ben finally makes a breakthrough with Eden, who calls him Daddy for the first time. Noelle targets Violet next, leading to Cal's arrest. Ben experiences a calling through a musician named Rad, which delays Cal's DNA test and reveals that his cancer has returned. Meanwhile, Michaela, Jared, and Zeke track down Noelle, who has kidnapped Adrian. On the other hand, Egan receives a calling and is pressured into joining Saanvi's experiment to amplify it, but the attempt fails. Olive then uncovers the Omega Sapphire's final location to be at Mount Ararat. Although Adrian is rescued by the police, Noelle's husband breaks into the Stone's home to kill Eden. In the chaos, Zeke is shot but manages to stop him with Olive's help. At the same time, Egan begins his own hunt for the Omega Sapphire. Days pass and Cal's condition worsens despite Saanvi's efforts. And another doctor, Dr. Bates, confirms he has only a few days to live. That night, the Stones and their allies receive a calling aboard Flight 828, which directs them to Thomas and Marco, both passengers from Flight 828. Olive and TJ believe the Omega Sapphire could cure Cal. Meanwhile, Egan discovers a hidden Alzurus tarot puzzle in a soup kitchen basement, directing the group to the Sapphire's location behind a wall depicting the goddess Mot. Egan steals the sapphire and flees when the wall collapses, all while the passengers are experiencing a massive calling that reveals the death date's apocalypse. Egan ends up disappears with the glowing sapphire, which is later stolen by an unknown figure. Cal's condition continues to worsen as Michaela and Zeke experience ominous callings of ash. Meanwhile, Angelina deceives Ben by appearing as Grace, but he quickly uncovers her trick and forces Eden to choose between them. Eden ultimately chooses Ben, which prompts Angelina to lash out violently and unleash a devastating sonic scream through the sapphire. Soon, Olive identifies Angelina's hiding place as an abandoned Catholic school. There, Angelina uses the sapphire to manipulate the callings, but Cal is able to stop her through divine consciousness, shattering it. In the aftermath, the government decides to detain all of the Flight 828 passengers, and Zeke sacrifices his life to heal Cal, who makes a miraculous recovery. Although the building collapses in flames, Angelina still survives, with fragments of the shattered sapphire embedded in her hand, triggering fissures to erupt across the city. 8 months later, and over 700 people have already died due to the tri-state fissure event. Cal's glowing arm reappears, signaling a new calling. Michaela and the other passengers remain detained, but she and Ben briefly escape to aid Georgia, a sympathizer helping fugitive passengers. They rescue Bethany's wife and discover a mysterious plane imprint in an orchard. Afterwards, Ben chooses to turn himself in, rejoining detention. Meanwhile, Captain Daly is revealed to be alive, though sedated under the control of another suspicious figure named Zimmer. Elsewhere, Angelina reappears in St. Louis with her hand glowing once more. Meanwhile, Michaela and Jared follow a calling to uncover a trafficking ring and successfully rescue several kidnapped children. At the same time, Ben and Saanvi administer adrenaline to awaken the unconscious Captain Daly, revealing his connection to a growing locust plague. Cal deliberately engages with Joe Butler, a passenger connected to the callings, and momentarily connects with Angelina, uncovering a hidden trapdoor at the orchard. As events escalate, Daly begins seizing and releasing locusts, signaling increasingly dangerous supernatural phenomena unfolding around Flight 828 and the passengers. Cal also discovers Fiona alive, but she is unresponsive, seemingly trapped in a never-ending calling linked to the divine consciousness. Meanwhile, Captain Daly spreads locust plagues and boils, which alarms Zimmer. Michaela and Jared also foil a plot orchestrated by Egan's student, Cheryl, while Angelina manipulates Eden through telepathy. Soon, a biblical imagery of the two witnesses emerges, and Angelina becomes convinced she must kill them to fulfill an apocalyptic destiny. As Fiona's condition worsens, Eden, who is now under Angelina's control, removes her breathing aid, and leaves Fiona motionless, signaling Angelina's catastrophic plan. Cal and Olive are shocked upon Fiona's sudden death, but they soon realize that Angelina has been using the sapphire to project through Eden. At the detention center, Ben experiences a disturbing calling of Captain Daly, covered in blood. Jared alerts Michaela that Angelina has returned, and Saanvi recruits Daly's estranged son, Patrick, to assist. Meanwhile, a mysterious plague turns water into blood, prompting a lockdown. Amidst the chaos, a girl named Polly gives birth, and Cal uses his projection ability to locate Angelina, leading to her arrest. However, the guards end up mistakenly shooting and killing Daly, while Michaela's encounter with Zeke completes a timeline loop. Daly's blood eventually contaminates the river, turning it red. The public reacts in outrage to the news of this, forcing fugitive passengers into hiding. Meanwhile, Zimmer strikes a deal with Angelina to exploit her abilities. With Jared's help, Michaela escapes after her father collapses. Before Zimmer's raid, Ben urges the passengers to flee. On the other hand, Saanvi discovers that Angelina's sapphire has fused with her body, making it impossible to remove. Ben sedates Angelina, but the attempt backfires when all passengers' callings suddenly stop. With this, Saanvi is reassigned, and Egan aids Angelina in her escape. Ben suddenly realizes a volcano beneath New York is erupting, signaling a potential apocalyptic event. While taking care of Michaela's father 2 days later, Michaela and Jared resume their romance. Ben manages the detention facility in the midst of the chaos. 2 guards are killed when a lava sinkhole opens and the remaining staff rebels. As guards stand outside, Zimmer locks the passengers inside in accordance with the isolation protocol. Everyone, including the most vulnerable passengers, is reunited with the assistance of Olive, Eden, and TJ. On the other hand, Cal starts deciphering mysterious callings that allude to upcoming events, such as 6238. All while the self-proclaimed Archangel, Angelina, influences other travelers by promising them a new world. Despite the lack of supplies, the detention facility is still thriving 8 months later. While Michaela and Jared guard patients during blackouts, Cal keeps analyzing several callings. Soon, they find a secret escape route through Cal's callings that connects to Drea's building. Drea, who is expecting a child, is rescued from an intruder by Jared and Cal. The team now understands that the callings Peacock, Dragon, and Stars stand for the how, where, and what required to stop the death date. To stop the god frequency and volcanic activity, Saanvi works with the Secretary of Defense to implement an EMP plan. Meanwhile, Ben urges the travelers to cherish the time they have left, even as Cal struggles to receive the callings. During Saanvi's rescue, Troy, a lab technician, sacrifices himself to ensure the group can escape. Meanwhile, Angelina tries to consolidate her influence over her followers, even proposing marriage to Egan to strengthen her control. As the passengers prepare for the looming death date, Cal continues searching for meaning and guidance within his callings. Following Cal's callings, they decide to head to Storm King Mountain, a site linked to Noah's Ark. Along the way, they reconcile personal conflicts and strengthen their existing relationships. Soon after, they discover that the driftwood from Noah's Ark can fulfill the callings without Angelina, so Cal, Michaela, and Ben devise a plan to prevent the disaster. That same night, Cal connects with the fissure, sending a brilliant blue beam towards the sky. United, the passengers make heartfelt vows and bid each other farewell, preparing to face the signs of judgment together. When the death date finally starts, earthquakes and a volcanic eruption shake the land. Olive, TJ, and the others interpret the world card that reveals humanity's destiny. As the volcano uncovers Flight 828, which is now functioning as an ark, the passengers gather at the fissure. Angelina attempts to stop them, but she loses her powers and disintegrates into ash. With Amuta's leadership and piloting, Ben and Michaela help other survivors board the plane. Their survival is ensured by the ark fragment and Cal's sapphire. As they emerge from purgatory, the passengers experience a second chance at life. There, lost loved ones are reunited, hope is restored, and Michaela ultimately chooses Zeke as her partner, marking a whole new beginning.